Now, let us have the demo on Java Swing facilities. Now, Java Swing facilities will be covered in 2 demonstration modules. This is the first one. In this demonstration modules, we are going to cover how to create a J frame, that means frame in Java Swings rather, and then panel, and then swing buttons, actually different components are swing. And then here whenever we have to include this component, there are few things needs to be remembered, either using a constructor we can add some component, or using the frame class, or using the action listener method it is there. And also we will see that which makes a little bit difference from the AWT button to the J button, that how a button can include an image, that means button with image actually. And then we will discuss about the simple calculator using addition and subtraction, which we have discussed in our text handling event handling one demonstration there. The same things will be, but using Java Swing only. And simple program to find the number of words and characters using text area. So, this is another advantage that we can have from the Java Swing. This is why Swing is more preferable, because it has lot of built in program, automatically it is there. So, automatic word count and then character count also can be facilitated from the Java. And then other GUI component like text field, password field, and then login password field, everything will be covered, and then checkbox, radio button, JSpinner, and then toggle button, all these things that ever. Okay, we will try to accommodate the demonstration of all these programs. So, let us have for the first demonstration on the J frame, that means how a frame can be included in a container using the Java Swing. And for these things, as you know, we have to import javax.swing.star. This is the necessary if we want to include the swing component here, and then other things are to be included like import java.awt.star, and all these things are there, those are related to this one. Anyway, so we have included those are the things are there, javax.swing.star, it will include all the packages, those are there, and by means of that all classes those are defined there, will be accessible to this program. And this program is very simple. As you see, we create one frame, the name of the frame object that we have created is simply frame, and the label is J frame example, and then also we declare one panel, and then layout we have set into the flow layout. Flow layout you have already learned about in the context of AWT, and then label has been initialized with the label button as label has been initialized as J frame by example, that is all. And then button one object is one component is created here, and all those things are added into this panel first, and then panel has been added into the frame, that is the policy, it is basically that. So, panel includes the different J Swing components, and finally, panel is included in the frame objects. And then so we have to just so if we see the output of this applet, then you can find it, the output that you can get it here, as you see here a little bit bigger in screen, then okay. So, J frame by example, and then button it is there. So, this is a simple example that a frame can includes the different J Swing components, how it is there, including here panel, label, and button, everything is included in this one. Now, next example is basically the panel related. So, how a panel can be created and the panel can be added. We have already done the same example in the previous case also, it is explicitly only panel there. So, let us have the output of this program, and here you can see the background of the different button can be changed here, how the different color also, that is also possible here, and then background of the frame is gray or white, you can say, and then whatever the panel is gray, and all these things you have done the setting, it is there. Now, our next example is basically swing example. So, how a swing button can be created and it can be added into a frame is very simple one. As you see here, we first create a frame, the frame is titled as no title is in the frame, it is here in this case. Then we create a button, the button is labeled as click, and then we add this button B into the frame F, and then finally we define the configuration of the frames regarding size, layout, and then visibility. Those are the standard or configuration protocols that we have to do it. So, this is a very simple one example for illustration, which includes a frame, and the frame contains one button, the label as click. Yeah, that is fine. It is very simple one example. Now, there are many methodologies by which a frame can be included. So, there are 3 ways that a frame can be and then the different method can be included, and finally, the whole GUI can be created. So, it is basically one idea about the creating GUI components inside the constructor method itself, and here we can see the simple example here. We give the name of the class that we are going to develop for a GUI program. The name of the class is simple in this case, and in the simple class, as you see, it has the frame declaration and then the constructor simple, and we inside this constructor we define whatever the procedure needs to be followed in order to create the GUI. As we have done here, create a button, and that button is added into the frame, and then frame has been resized and whatever it is there. And finally, in the main method we can just create the one instance of this class by calling the constructor automatically. So, that constructor only one constructor, it is there simple. So, this way actually what is the advantage of this thing is that a code sharing is possible. If we do the class in the different package, and then we can include it, and then from this class we can just create the object, and then that object creation itself basically include the different parts of the GUIs to be included in the bigger one. So, it is basically the idea about bottom up approach. So, bottom level are all the class declaration for each GUI component, and then top level is the bigger content that it can be designed. Okay, so, this is the one idea about it. Our next example is basically the same thing, but here we can create an instance, and then for that instance we can create the objects there here, and then we can say that there is no need to create the instance of the frame class explicitly. This is the one example here we can see without any creating the app object. However, we will be able to add some component into it. So, this example is basically illustrate this fact actually. Mostly it is very similar to the previous example. Now, let us see what is the difference here in so far the coding is concerned. Now, here we defined the class simple2 which extends GFrame, that is the only difference point here. Earlier is just simple2 class, but we have to extend it. That means, it is basically a subclass of JFrame actually, simple2 in this case subclass of JFrame, and then we create a frame object, and then we define the constructor simple2, and then we create the button B, and then add button. Now, here you see we add button, and explicitly we do not have to mention, implicitly that this add button goes to this frame itself, because the frame is the subclass object, it is there. So, this button will be floated on the frame itself, which is the main which is included in the main class is there. And finally, the main method is basically create the instance of this class itself by means of calling the constructor. So, it is basically same as this one. You may find the second the last one example is more preferable, that is all. This basically looks pretty simple, it looks a little bit abstract, but it is also some programmer prefer this kind of coding, it is there. And another example is that button with action listener. So, event handling, the most important part, it is there. So, how we can add the action listener to each button, like so for an instance for example. And in this example we see we create a frame first, and in this frame we add one button, the name of the button that we have given is the B, and B has been set and configured properly and added into the frame. And then we have to add the listener method for that, add action listener, new action listener is the method, right, and then it will basically it will print whatever the action that depends to. That means, if we click the button, automatically this event will be executed, event code will be, event related code will be executed, and it will display the text welcome to Java point like this one, and then finally it will display the results. So, this is the one example that we have shown it, the button. Now, here the next example, button with image. So, there is a one good point here, so far the Java Swing button is concerned, that we can add some button image on the button. So, this is the code there, only you have to just simply instead of setting the label that we have done there icon of the image type we have to add it there. So, that we did it here, we have created a J button B and then we say then we create one image icon J. So, while we define the J button B as a button, that time we just create an instance of image icon into it. The image icon basically includes the specific location of the image from where it should get the image file. So, that this image can be included in the button. As you see the output for this program, you can see is basically include one image that is there, and yeah. So, this is the basically button with image. So, similarly some person's face or some other object flower or all these things or some other video click, video symbols, and everything can be included in this button like this. Now, our next example related to the text field in Java Swing. So, how the text field can be added, and after adding the text field how the different action can be handled related to this text field. So, again it is very similar to the simple calculator that we have already discussed while we are discussing about event handling routine managing, and there is basically here we will include same thing, but here we just use only the Java button and Java text field method it is there. It is basically same thing, earlier it was without any swing package, here only the thing that we have used in the swing package. The output and display and everything very similar to the previous one example of course. Okay, you can go through the code and then you can understand it. It is basically very similar to the previous code it is there, and you can find little bit different. The button looks like little bit different than the button that is created, that was created using AWT components like this one. Now, our next example to discuss the other few essential components which is not used explicitly with a particular specific to the Java Swing, namely password field in addition to text field for the login purpose. As you know, whenever user has to log into some sites or server, then it basically display one applet or window where it includes login and then password. So, login appears as a text field, whereas password is appeared as a password field. So, password field can be created by using Java Swing here as you see. So, login you can type anything something, no event is added here. So, you can just login as a name, you can write Debashish for example, and the password is my password. Now, if we click it and whatever the password that we have, your program can sense it and accordingly it will print this one. So, password is this one, whatever it is there. Now, so these are the things that we can, action can be generated and then event can be generated, and for this event the action can whichever action that you can plan, you can add it into the interface. So, this is about the password field, it is there. Our next example is basically checkbox using Java Swing. The similar concept, only the thing is that J checkbox and all these things needs to be included here. So, is basically we create the checkbox, two checkbox as a checkbox 1 and checkbox 2, and in each checkbox we add that's all, only we just create the two checkbox, and out of which one checkbox as marked and the other is non marked. So, it is basically true and other is there. So, two checkbox are labeled as C++ and Java like. As you see the two checkbox here C++ and Java, and if we click C++, you will see the checkbox selection will go from Java to C++ like. So, automatically it will be added this one. Now, radio button is another example very similar to the checkbox as we have shown it, but checkbox has the rectangular view of checking box. So, that is why it is called the checkbox. On the other hand, radio button is basically a button look like a radio, that means it is a circular type. That is the only difference between radio button and the checkbox. Otherwise, the process method and everything is very similar to the checkbox itself. So, checkbox and radio button are the same program, in fact only changing the component type from checkbox to J radio button like. and this is the code, and as you can see this is the things are there, and if we click that click will be highlighted here. Using the mouse click event needs to be added here in order to sense the event, and corresponding to that event you can write our own code, so that the event handle code can be written by the programmer. So, this is the one example of radio button example. Our next example is basically J spinner. As you know, the J spinner is basically giving the choice of course, but little bit in a numeric form usually. So, here the numeric form and the range and everything can be specified. Okay, as we see here, and if we it is just not exactly the scroll bar, it is basically incrementer and decrementer of the spinner value actually. So, this in this example as we see we create a spinner J spinner with the initial value as 5. So, by default we can change it 0, and then let us make it 0, and then it has the range of values that it can vary. So, 0 to 10 and 0 to 10 like, and increment is 1. So, if we can give the 0.5 increment, that you can understand 0 first, then 0.5 and everything is there. So, incrementing 0.5. Okay, fine. So, we can run it. Yeah. So, as we run it, as you can see initialize 0, little bit bigger in screen, so that we can see it little bit clearly. Yeah, fine, little bit middle. Yeah. Now, as we see here, now if we the upper click we can use it. So, it will increase, as you see that we are clicking and automatically the spinner values is ranging from current value to 1 increment each time, and then again decreasing again if after 10 if you write. Okay, fine, right. So, there will be no increment. Similarly, if you decrement it will go than this one. Now, so this is the idea about here incremental value can be any value. Here we have 1. So, if I can do 0.25, so the range of value, the precision will be automatically changed, and then it will do work for you. So, it is only for the numeric range of course, no other range can be allowed, for example, floating point and all these things is not allowed there. So, this is the J spinner, and our next example is toggle button. Yeah. So, toggle button is basically a button look like, but here actually the button value can be toggled from only 2 values, either on, off, or whatever it is there. Now, in this example as we see here, so little bit bigger in size. Yeah. So, now here the button is default is on. Now, if we click this on, then automatically it will change to off. So, obviously, the routine needs to be written for that. We will just come to the code here. We can see what is the code that is there in case of J button. So, here we have created one example. The name of the class that we have, it is basically extension of J frame. So, a constructor of J frame needs to be created first. So, public static void main string is the main method, and then we can create the toggle button example as a constructor here to invoke this one. And then the toggle button example constructor is now defined by set title, that means it is a frame. The title of the frame is the toggle button with item listener actually, because this button can be is not that action listener, it is item listener. And then we just defined set layout as a flow layout. You can change any other flow layout, or if you define the set layout null, whatever it is there. So, default layout planning will be there, and set J toggle button, set action, and then set size, set visible to, and set default closed operation. These are the usual method for the toggle button that you have to add it, exit on close. So, it is there. Now, here you just come to the set J toggle button method, which we have used there. How this basically toggling will be there. So, it is on because it is on and off between, and then add button, and then set action is basically add item listener needs to be set here, so that it can listen to the event if anything happens to that. And then we define the item state change event is there, that is the event regarding the item event as I said already, and then if selected, then it basically set text off. If you do not select anything, it will remain the same thing like that. Now, if I change it, so on instead of on true, and then off is false. actually we can change any value there, right, and then here true, on instead of on we can just write true. Now, we have changed it. So, you can toggle between true and false like. Okay, as we see here, yes. Now, so button is here, we can see this is one. If we click it, then you will see that change will be true to false. So, click the button, yeah, as you see it, it is there. Okay, and all the other things are applicable here. Now, we have understood few components there, few more components are also there that we will cover in our next demo class. Our next demo class will include few more concepts about Java string components. Thank you very much.